what I'm learning is, and you guys probably see this too in your practice here and in your facilities everywhere, is that one treatment isn't going to foul swoop and get to everybody. And it's certainly not going to help everybody.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the #1 mental health and addiction podcast, the Hopeaholics. I am your girl, Natalie Eva Marie, and these are my boys.
I'm Chad.
Hi, I'm Shane.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials and wherever you get your podcasts.
Got a new episode dropping every Monday and Thursday. Please come check it out.
This episode is brought to you by the Infinity Group. You guys, if you or a loved one is suffering, please call us today. The number is right here on the screen. We are here for you 24/7. Now, let's get into the episode.
Here we go.
Dr. Kelly, welcome to the Hopeaholics
Yes.
Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys. Good to be here.
And for being up super early, taking a flight. You're amazing. We
Yeah.
appreciate you
Happy to do
doing
it.
that extra. We know how travel is, so
Yeah.
brutal.
It's a little brutal, but you know what? It's like I said to you guys earlier, it's totally worth it.
Plus, you get the adrenaline when you walk into the room here with the
Yes.
three of us, and we're all amped up, and we get you going.
I don't feel tired at all.
This is what I'm saying.
I don't.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then all the stuff on the walls.
Right.
it's just, I feel like I've slept for 8 hours.
When we're done, it'll be a whole different
Be
story.
like under the table.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know anything about Dr. Kelly?
Oh yeah,
You do?
little bits and pieces.
Okay.
I mean,
I mean, we're going to get a lot of good information today.
Yeah.
especially because I feel, especially us three, we're really into performing at the best of our body's capability,
Right.
and so that ties hand in hand to what you do and what you know and all of the things that I want to basically pick out of you to see if I'm doing the right protocols for certain things.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But
Happy to help.
Before we go, like before we dive into that part, I want to know what made you want to go into this field and becoming a doctor.
Oh, gosh. Becoming a doctor. So initially, when I went to school at the University of Manitoba.
Yeah.
In Canada. Initially, I was going in to be a corporate lawyer.
Wow.
So random compared to medicine.
Sure.
But I always felt like there was something I wanted to do to help people. And I thought, well, if I could be in corporate law, I could be one of the good guys. Like I could help people and do good things. And then when I got there, I thought, oh no, this is not for me. Like it's too stuffy. And sorry for all the attorneys that are listening, but it just wasn't my personality. And sports, as you guys, can all relate, especially you, Natalie, that it was a place for me to feel empowered. And so when I was on the volleyball court or when I was on the baseball field or whatever, curling, right?
Yeah.
That's what
I
that's what
curled.
we
I
do.
curled.
Yeah. It felt like I was just coming alive.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, what can I do in sports because I knew I couldn't play volleyball forever and get paid and all the rest of it. Like there would have to be something after that. And I thought, well, what about, sports psychology or sport medicine? And so it was sports medicine that I got into because again, being Canadian, hockey is life. I was like, Detroit Red Wings. Brendan Shanahan was on the team. There were all these, awesome hockey players. I was like, that's what I want to do. And so I finished my athletic therapy degree and I was like, oh, I still want more. And it was really tough because in that field, in hockey and football and different things that I felt like I could do the most I could be of the most use.
Yeah.
It was really male dominated.
Sure.
And I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And you go into locker rooms and stuff like that to help somebody. You're thinking about the injury, but there's also this barrier there, and I get it. So then I kind of backed up, and I thought, well, what am I going to do now after I finish this? What am I going to do? And I finished my master's degree at the University of North Dakota because I guess I love snow. I could have went to Hawaii
Great
or
school.
something like
Great
that.
school.
It's a great
school.
Yeah. And so I finished exercise physiology, did my master's there, and I was like, okay, there's got to be a job out there somewhere. There wasn't. And I remember a mentor of mine in athletic therapy said, Kelly, you got to go and you got to either get your doctorate or you're going to have to go into med school because that's the only way you're going to be able to make the decisions yourself. Everything else, and you're going to be working with other people, and that's great. But to make those decisions, you're going to have to go up as far as you can. So I applied. I got in University of Manitoba again, come back. And I did my PhD this time, not my MD. I was like, I don't really want to do surgery. I don't really want to prescribe. So I'm going to do my PhD. And I did that in molecular neuropharmacology. So all about pathways in the brain.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was in school for 10 years. Whew. So I got out of school. I was like this far in debt, and I had like 3 pairs of shoes. I mean, I was like, where do I start? What do I do? And then I moved down into the U.S. and about a year after I graduated, got into functional and integrative medicine. The substance use disorder, work had always been in the background because I was in law enforcement for 7 years when I got out of high school, and I did it while I was in university, and then I got in full time. But then the PhD, and I was like, do you do law enforcement or do you go all in school? So I went all in school. And so when I got out of that, I did some SUD work. I did some programming and things like that with the government, Ontario government. And that was about a year. And so I thought, this is kind of cool, but then I left it. And I did the functional medicine route, biotech, et cetera. And then it just, I don't know, it just sort of kept pulling me back, because the brain is so involved in addiction and everything that goes around that, whether it's family, the person who is struggling with the addiction, whatever. So about 10 years ago, I got back into it, and I'm only 27, so it's weird.
Really weird.
Like 3 when I was.
I know. Good for you.
It's weird.
Fort Francis, yay, Fort Francis.
Yeah, well, yay for
Smart people.
Stratton, Ontario. Shout out to my people.
I've driven through there a few times.
You have?
Yeah.
You blinked and.
I blinked and it was bad. Yeah.
We owned
There was a bar there.
We owned the restaurant.
Yeah,
there.
I would go.
My
in.
mom. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So that's the
So you've
story.
been in the restaurant that she owns?
I'm not sure. I'm sure I have Stratton, Ontario.
Yeah. You probably had coffee there.
Probably.
50 cents for a cup.
Yeah.
What?
Can't beat it. Back in the day.
Can't beat it.
What's it now?
$1.50
No.
or something.
Still cheap.
Maybe
That's
2.
not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's country.
Do you know everybody? It's a
You
good
do.
time. Yeah.
And they know everything about you.
Yeah.
Is that good?
No.
No.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. If you're
Takes a village.
clean.
If you're clean, it takes a village. So the community is good. The town is nice if you're living life properly.
That's right.
What if you're not?
If you're not, then it's an ambush.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, but you're forced to change or you're forced to get out.
That's right.
So that's,
Is that why you left?
yeah.
Yeah. And it does. It forces you out.
That's a good one, right?
Yeah.
That was a good one.
But I'll tell you,
Mark that.
in the small towns, like you knew who was suffering
Sure.
with,
Yeah.
Yes.
alcoholism or, substance use of some kind.
Yeah.
You knew.
You knew.
Like it was very evident. We'd go to the curling club
Yeah.
and baseball in the summer, curling in the winter. And you could tell
You could
by
tell the drinker
9
and
o'clock,
yeah.
you knew that
9
this
a.m.
person- 9 a.m. Yeah, we're not talking.
I just want to
PM.
let my American audience know that she's not talking about curling.
Bicep curling. Nope, we are not.
It's
I
where
forgot. You know what? I forgot.
brush
They
it-
were, I
what-
forgot
what
they
is
were
it?
here.
What is
Right?
the, what is
You know?
what's
I
the
do
stick
too.
or the thing that you guys use to?
Broom.
Yeah, it's a broom.
Called the
It's called a broom.
It's the broom.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a natural sweeper too.
You, you
Yeah.
have the height for
Yeah,
I don't
it
think
was
I've
really good.
ever tried.
It's an Olympic
Curling.
sport.
It is a Olympic
Yeah.
sport. Yeah.
it. And so it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it is strategy.
It's very strategic.
Oh,
It's
very.
an exciting game when you get into it because the way they twist the rocks
Yeah.
and sweep and you get a little piece of dust in there and it totally takes it off edge.
Uh-huh.
It's
That's right.
crazy.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's
And where were we?
intense.
Where were we?
I don't know. I don't think it matters because curling.
You're right. Curling is
Let's
very
talk
important.
more. No, I'm just kidding.
Is your family still in Canada?
Yes. Yep. All of them. My mom, my dad, my brother. I've got 2 nieces and a nephew. So my
Good for
little,
you.
my
Yeah.
little people that I love. Yeah. So.
Do you think that you went kind of the neuro path? Was anybody in your family struggle with addiction, or you had this?
Well, oh gosh, that's a good question. My uncle did, and there's a few others. Like, back in the day, my parents, like, they went out Friday night,
Sure.
Saturday night, sometimes Sunday night, curling, whatever,
Yeah.
community. Everybody got together, it seemed like, in a small town. And there's always beer or there was something, So but it wasn't taboo. My parents were like, we're going to make sure that this is not uncomfortable. They're not giving us alcohol, but so that you aren't uncomfortable in sneaking it, or whatever. So it never was a real big deal for us. But my uncle, unfortunately, had taken his life with alcoholism. And, there were a few other people around that had gotten that far down and had taken their lives. But it wasn't something that I was like, I have to do this because it's a family legacy. It was something that I just knew pathways make sense to me.
Yeah.
So doing research and putting together pathways of disease state or health states to help people stay healthy. It's exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's sexy.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
The brain,
yeah.
it's everything's there.
It's right.
Yeah.
And I've never been cool. I've never been cool in my life except when I talk about the brain. People
Yeah.
are like,
People love
she's
it.
got something to say.
For sure. Because it's super cool.
It's cool.
It is. And I feel a lot, it gives people hope and also a lot of knowledge that they have control over certain things by just changing diet.
Right.
Per se.
You're so right.
Not thinking that they have to all of a sudden get prescribed some type of pill that they have to take for the rest of their life. It's like, actually, you can just implement these types of foods and take these ones out. And then let's see how you're feeling. And not realizing that all of it correlates with from how you feel to how you sleep to how you perform is so important. And it's kind of awesome that we are able to have that knowledge now from people like yourself that take it to the next degree.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's everything, your brain and your gut. I mean, everybody talks about this now, right? There's such a connection there. There obviously always has been, but we just didn't realize the strength of that connection. And especially with things like nutrition, like you said, Natalie, I mean, nutrition, you can make or break an athlete
For sure.
or just
Anybody.
a regular person.
Even acne, skin, all of it.
Yes.
You know what? I'm 57. When I was young, my mom only fed us porridge or cream of wheat. That was it. She did her studies. She was a nutritionalist before the word was invented.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Always healthy food, vegetables, turkey, chickens, not a lot of red. Now all I do is red meat though. No vegetables, nothing.
You don't?
No.
At all?
Never. It's been like
Are you still drinking green juice?
Yes.
You are?
Yeah.
What's
Well,
in
that's
your
vegetables.
What's in your exactly. What's
Yes.
in your green juice?
Good question.
Yeah, that is
Good
a good
question.
He's going to say, I don't know because my wife makes it. That is what he's...
Cucumbers,
Celery.
celery,
Okay.
Kale,
Okay.
things like that. Spinach.
One thing I love that. One thing to watch for, and there's a couple of schools of thought here with kale.
Yeah.
I
know.
read
I read it
it.
too.
Kale
read it.
can be
Yes.
not a
read
nice
it.
Not good.
thing.
Yeah, I
It
read
can be
it.
not a nice
I read
thing.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, I read that.
But for other people who can handle it,
Yeah.
it's just fine. It's kind of inert. It's not whatever, and you can draw the nutrients out, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But what I'm learning is, and you guys probably see this too in your practice here and in your facilities everywhere, is that one treatment isn't going to foul swoop and get to everybody. And it's certainly not going to help everybody. That's why so many different modalities are needed as we treat our patients, our clients, because they're going to respond like a kale thing. Some are going to respond really well. Some's going to be neutral, and some it's actually going to give you a tummy ache. And it's going to hurt. So it's like exactly what you all are doing. You really have to be mindful of the person that's sitting in front of you that needs that assistance.
Well, it's just like for the longest time, we go through these phases, especially when it comes to nutrition, right? You go through, there was the carnivore diet, then you have paleo, then you have all of these sorts of things, different modalities, which are all great, but there's not a one specific way to do something because obviously, like you just said, we're all very different and our bodies are going to respond differently. So what works for me might not work for him, so it's very important for people to be in tune with their body and pay attention to how things are reacting. And I never knew how important the gut really makes a difference to your health until it was, I think 2021 is when I got serious because I was always having these crazy, like my stomach has always been an issue. I thought, I don't know, maybe it's just I would always be bloated or just really, really uncomfortable, where I would end up in the ER multiple times because it was just so painful. And then finally I just had enough, and I did my own little, you have to be your own advocate too.
You really
That was
do.
what I have learned, because I would go to the doctor and I'm like, can you please just test me? Like, something is not right. This is like crazy. And then finally I got some blood work done, and sure enough, it came back that I had an autoimmune, but the autoimmune was celiac disease. So the moment that I took out gluten, life-changing.
Completely.
Life-changing. Not only did I lose weight way quicker, but the inflammation in my body, and then I would have to lay down on my stomach because I would be in so much pain trying to, like, whether it was gas or something going on in there. But the moment that I took that out,
Fine. That's amazing.
which is nuts.
What
is.
information do you have on gluten? Because there's been so much stuff said about gluten, and so many people gluten intolerant. But from what I understand, really people that are gluten intolerant is people like her that have celiac. Is that true or false?
So it's almost all completely true. Definitely not false, but it's not only. That's the thing in biology.
You see how Canadians are? You know what I mean? She's so, that was, you see how she spoke so beautiful right there. That was wonderful.
Careful.
Very Canadian.
So very Canadian. But you're on the right track, and celiac is real. I mean, that is a real, my nephew struggles with that with gluten as well. And since he's been, I mean, you're right, that you're a different person. You feel so much better. You're not in pain. You're not living with this bloating, this feeling of ick in your
Well, and a lot
tummy.
of people don't know, everyone, when you're born, your stomach's, everything sprouts from the stomach.
Yeah.
So the stomach is the first thing that grows.
Which was crazy because I was
And
premature
everything
and I
grows
didn't
from the
have my
stomach.
stomach valve.
Yeah. Oh,
So
weird.
then I know.
That's part of
So
it.
it's actually really crazy. So we started going even further back because my mom, they were either going to have to do surgery and give me a plastic, like a fake one.
Yes.
You know, the little, when you eat, you have a little valve that opens and then closes
Yeah.
so that way you don't like spit up your food.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, didn't want them to do surgery on because I was a preemie.
Yeah.
And so what she did was, the other option was, okay, well, every time they fed me, I had to sit in a car seat for a while. And so for 6 months, that's what she did.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I ended up growing my valve. So it could have stemmed
Wow.
from
Good for your mom.
then at an early age.
Good
from
for your mom for
stomach.
not going to surgery, women. That's cool. That's nowadays they go to surgery.
I know.
That's right.
That's what's weird about how we've advanced in some ways, but when it comes to surgeries, they say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My tonsils always give me trouble with the doctors. Don't take your tonsils out. We don't know what they do yet, but they do something.
They do something. They're
Same
not
with the
there.
gallbladder.
Right. Exactly. So many people that have had that gallbladder removed have had so many problems afterwards. And there are ways that we can remedy what's
Sure.
going on with the
Yes.
gallbladder
Yeah.
with tonsils if people are, fighting inflammation. Inflammation is, and getting back to your question too about gluten and gliadin, and there's all kinds of bits and pieces that can affect the gut. But what's happening is, number one, especially when it comes to gut health, is that gluten is one of those things. It's almost like it's like a scrub brush thingy, and then it gets stuck and starts to irritate the lining of the gut. And then especially in celiac, there's almost like an allergic type reaction. I mean, it's not equal to an allergy, but you know what I mean. It's almost like that kind of reaction. Some people will argue that that there certainly is allergies involved as well, and I'm kind of that school. But it starts to kind of just nip away and eat away at the intestinal lining. Once it does that, it's got a clear path out into the rest of the body. Well, all of the stuff that's supposed to be contained and then very methodically extracted just ends up in the bloodstream.
Which is no bueno.
No bueno.
That's like getting a colonoscopy and they cut you when they're going through it.
Right.
That's
Definitely
that same,
no bueno.
No bueno.
No.
No.
And then not only that, but if it starts to kind of erode the lining of the gut, it starts to do that with the brain, with
an
the
ulcer.
blood-brain
Oh my
barrier.
goodness.
Pops all those nutrients. that
So
are
should
supposed-
everyone not take gluten?
No, so that's a good question. So some people say, well, let's just eradicate gluten and everybody will be fine. But the bottom line is not everybody responds to gluten the way someone with celiac or someone who is allergic or whatever. So for me, for example, I fought that same thing. I had really bad digestive issues, really bad bloating. I mean, terrible. So I hear you.
Yeah, it was horrible.
But mine wasn't that. Mine was there's some other things. So for me, it's the flora in my gut. So the good bacteria, bad bacteria. I did not have a very good balance.
Okay.
You know, there was that. Stress is another thing that can do all these things. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the irritation. Once it pokes through the lining of the gut, that's when it just dumps into the bloodstream and it becomes very toxic. Then you start to get that low-grade inflammation. Well, that sets you up for failure right there. Mm-hmm. So healing the gut, decreasing that inflammation, kicking it out completely when you can, those are all ways to start to remedy. And for folks like you, getting rid of that gluten. Mm-hmm. So not everybody has to be, super stringent and never touch another thing with gluten. But those, like I said, that are like you, you have to be that diligent.
Yeah.
It's funny because gluten actually doesn't bother me at all. Bread, even the crappiest of American bread that you can get, doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form. Now, Natalie can go to different countries, such as Italy. Where else did you go? You went somewhere not too long ago.
Yeah, where was I?
And she can
Spain.
eat Spain.
Okay.
No, but it was.
Yeah, it was.
Was it Spain?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ibiza.
Ibiza.
And
And then I was in Colombia.
yeah, she can have bread.
I can have
pasta.
everything, fried, anything. Just go balls.
And I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. Throw America under the bus.
No, you
but
can because we're messing with our food for sure.
We
we are
fact.
really messing with our food.
Yeah.
And I was having just recently. I was having a lot of gut problems, and I think my gut problem originally stemmed from two things that I was doing on a very, very regular basis, which was that really hot sauce.
Oh yeah,
What's
sriracha.
Sriracha sauce.
Yes.
And energy drinks
Ooh, yeah.
in combination.
Like a 1-2 punch. That was not.
Yeah, and then it caused a gut problem that wouldn't go away, and I was, they had put me on every med possible. The meds would work, but like it's not what I wanted it to be on America pharmaceutical medication. So I did find Gary Brecka through them, and I just what I did, and I don't believe everything Gary says, because I've seen other doctors completely annihilate him.
Yeah.
But the one thing he said is to eat single ingredient organic food. So I started eating single ingredient organic food, and I have to tell you, I am a different person. And it's been about 9 months that I've been eating this way, and I can eat spicy things again.
Yeah.
And not irritate my stomach.
Right. You've given your body time to heal. A lot of times for people, though, it's years. That 9 months, that's a blessing right there to be able to get it.
I was
to
really,
a point.
really bland.
Yeah, well, there's that too, I guess. But
I did.
Do what you have to.
But I did because I was tired of my stomach would hurt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had GERD. It was burning.
Yep.
And I would have acid coming up, and it was just horrible.
Do you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Chad. Here's a really interesting thing. You guys probably already know this, but I was working with a patient this weekend, and she was talking about trouble with acid reflux, and she's like, I know I just have too much stomach acid, and I was like, well, maybe not, because some of the studies have been shown that even if you've got low stomach acid, it decreases the pressure in the stomach that's required to keep that flap that you were talking about, Natalie, closed. So with a decrease in stomach acid, decrease in pressure in the stomach, all of a sudden that flap kind of moves. So that can bubble up what's left of that acid in the stomach. So a lot of times people are like, well, I got to have those, that the antacids and the whatever's that kind of push down the stomach acid. But oftentimes, not for everybody, but oftentimes that's not the culprit. It's the food, it's the whatever, that we're putting into our bodies and insulting our bodies all the time. And especially things like energy drinks and sodas and, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff. And in treatment facilities, a lot of times, I'm not going to say the name of the energy drinks, but energy drinks are like, that's the water, that's how I hydrate. And I think, oh, no, that is not a good way to hydrate. Sorry, energy drink people. But, you know, there's better things that we can put into our bodies. So,
Like water.
like water.
Water's amazing. I love water. That is what I drink. I'm not the guy that the server likes at the restaurant
Yeah, me
because he says, "Do you want something to drink?" And I say, "I just drink water."
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
The thing is if they treat me nice, I tip better than somebody who just bought 10 drinks.
Right. Right.
But if you're like,
Water. Yeah.
and then you're slow with my service and all of that, I'm not okay with
It's not
that.
fun. One of my, so obviously I work, with Millennium Health. I'm the director of clinical affairs with Millennium. But what I do for sort of my Dr. Kelly stuff is I work with executives that are in the middle of mergers and acquisitions and different things. And there's so much stress.
For sure.
They're getting ready to sell their company and whatever. And that stress level
Cortisol level.
Oh, absolutely. And so a lot of times, or they're fighting with mold or some other, something insult in their system, but they don't have time to stop. They don't have time to go to the doctor. They don't have time to take care of themselves. And so I get inserted into those situations with these busy executives, and I'm like, look, it doesn't take much, but you still, like what you guys were doing, you have to be diligent. You have to be able to say food is fuel. It's not filler.
Yeah.
And start there. Go for walks, on your lunch break. Just, get out in the sunshine, get a little bit of fresh air. There's things you can do that don't take much effort, but yet we almost get overwhelmed, so we don't do anything. And we sit in our desk with the fluorescent lights and we eat, at our desks, and we don't even get outside for fresh air. That's not healthy. And with the stress, even with our clients and our patients in treatment, the stress that they go through, and then they have to, say, look, I've got an issue. So they admit that. Then they get into treatment, and that is a whole other ball game as well. It's great for them, but there's a lot of things happening in their bodies, in their minds that they're having to deal with. And if you don't have proper diet and some movement, you're already set up for failure.
Well, and it's tough. I mean, back 30, 40, 50 years ago, everyone had a garden.
Right. That's right.
Gardens are obsolete nowadays. You sure you have a community garden, you got to pay, it's like renting another home
Right. It's not
to
cheap.
get fresh food. Or you got to order fresh food. Again, not cheap. The normal average person cannot do either of those things.
That's right.
It is
Yeah.
really tough
Yeah.
these days to be able to eat the way I eat because I don't think that your average income can feed you the way I eat.
I know it. Yeah. And especially if you're, like we were talking about, if you're on one of those diets like carnivore, keto, whatever. And by the way, you guys, just as a kind of backing up my opinion, just like supplements, I always encourage people that if you do decide to do a diet and I hate using that word, but a special way of eating, or you're taking in supplements or whatever, do it for a month or do it till the bottle is done. And then allow yourself a bit of a washout period. Sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks. Let your body reset. Because sometimes, not food, but sometimes with those supplements and things like that, we may not ever need them again. If your body is kind of getting an opportunity now to do its own thing, doggone it, you may be at an advantage if you give yourself that washout. There may be a time where you're going to have to be on that diet or that medication or supplementation for a long time. Who knows? But it's safer to be able to do that, even though it's not a pharmaceutical, but it just to get your body to a point where it can start to take care of itself again. We are, we're beautifully made.
Right?
And we are made without the insults to
Yeah.
heal.
Yeah.
So why not let our bodies heal?
For sure.
If we can.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I
You
think
slow down on them peptides over there, my friend.
No, hell no.
No.
No, peptides is life.
Rock.
Wrong. Peptides is life. But I was thinking more medications.
Yeah.
Like these vaccines coming out. No offense. I mean, they didn't take them. My wife is totally against it. We never gave our kids any.
Yeah.
Our school's still calling. I'm still getting things from your child's not going to be able to come to school because you haven't done this, or this. We get them all year. We don't give them the shots.
Right. I know it. I lost a lot of friends during that time.
sad.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm a trained scientist. doesn't mean I know everything.
Sure.
I am the first one to say, like, let me go research this. You know, that's how we're trained, but we're critical thinkers. And when that came down the pipe at us, like, thou shalt do this, right away it raised a flag. You know, and it should raise a flag with all of us. But I kept getting the pushback. Well, it's for the greater good. It's for the greater good. How could you be so rude to a fellow human? And I thought, wait a minute here. When did it become wrong to be able to think and to be able to decide what's best for your family without the fact you're not going out and smashing people with hammers and wrecking houses and, you know, you're not hurting people. But I got so much pushback. Like, how could you be so insensitive? And I thought to myself, if you would just listen to the research I found, maybe you could make a more informed choice. Like that's what I'm here for. But don't throw shade on me if I don't agree with what you're doing with your family.
Yeah.
This is what
Agree.
I wanted
Completely.
for my family.
Yeah.
And that's the whole also purpose of being in America.
Right.
It's like
That's what
having-
America's supposed to be.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
that was my first red flag when they were telling us we had to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not doing this.
But if you chose to,
that's
awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
good.
Choose.
Absolutely.
You know,
Because
that's
if
your
it
choice.
was so great, and if I didn't do it and you did it, then you're safe.
right.
I'm the one that's not safe. So I couldn't even figure out why somebody could get upset with me for not taking the vaccine
Right.
that they just took that is supposed to make it safe
Yeah.
for them.
Right. That's right. There's no logic.
Yeah.
It isn't.
No, we lost the critical.
Yeah.
And then we
thinking.
just found out that Fauci has taken his sixth shot and has COVID currently as we speak.
Right. Again, critical thinking, right?
I'm sorry.
I
I'm sorry. I don't even mean to go here. I want to
No,
go to
but-
Millennium. Can we go to Millennium stuff? Because
No, but going
There's
there, what to piggyback on what you were saying just a little bit earlier is what we talk about and we have so much control over certain basic little things
Yeah.
to be healthy. So when certain situations come up where like a flu or something like that, your immune system is dialed and strong. So like even during COVID, I was traveling a ton. I was in WWE, I was on the road.
Right.
I never once got COVID. And I chalk it up to because I try to, not perfectly, but I try to eat good, get sunlight, work out, put good things in my body. And I feel like that has helped. So preventative health is the way, and as I age and as I see my parents, it's like preventative. I don't want to go to the doctor. If I go to the doctor, I'm probably dying. So, or they're going to kill me.
It's
so
that intense.
I'm
Yeah.
basically trying to negate doing that. So I want to do all of the right things before having to go in to have that dire need where it's like, okay, you have to get surgery or you need to see the doctor for that reason. Other than that, I want to stay far away from doctors and hospitals.
Right.
So it kind of coincides with taking those little things that from patients to clients, how are you eating? Are you getting out? Are you moving your body? Are you drinking enough water? Like certain things that people don't want to hear, but what it really comes down to is because it's easier to pop a pill or it's easier to go to the doctor and say, can you give me something to counter whatever you're feeling instead of taking a little extra time to implement drinking the water or getting up and walking around.
Yeah, like a lifestyle change.
a
Right?
lifestyle
Like,
change. This is a
totally
lifestyle.
is.
I have to
Yeah.
tell,
Yeah.
you know, this, and I want to jump in after I say what I'm saying because this is going to be the segue into the opioid crisis, right? Because this is what I have done for 22 years. I have worked in addiction treatment. I kind of refuse to call it substance use disorder because I have the disease. I'm an addict. I understand the disease from a perspective that somebody who doesn't have it wouldn't be able to understand. But I'm not sure what my whole point was.
That was a great setup.
It was a great
That
start,
was,
bro.
But
it was. Yeah.
But for real, like you're here to talk about the opioid crisis. I mean, I want to know about this information. I lost a son-in-law to the opioid crisis on 9/11 of 2022. That is the reason why this podcast exists.
Yeah.
I know you have a ton of information about what's going on in the world today, as far as the different drugs that are out there, the data in the drug testing world. Very fascinating, very interesting to me. What I was going to say though is it is a lifestyle change, and the pharmaceutical companies and our healthcare system, insurance payers, have made this about
money,
pharmacy meds.
Yeah.
So every single one of my patients that comes into this facility, when they when we do a utilization review, what meds are they taking? What are they doing MAT? Have they been offered MAT? I'm going to tell you that I'm not a fan of MAT. I'm not a fan of Suboxone maintenance or Subutex maintenance. Not to somebody who this is their first go around and they're 20 years old and they've never tried abstinence. If you're 50 and you've been a heroin junkie your whole life and you've been in and out of the system, let's give you a better life. Because there is something different. But when it comes to this, they're pushing us to push this on them because they don't want to give the extra days for a lifestyle change. And that's what it takes. And it's not working. Their way isn't working, because what's happening is we have a very high recidivism rate because people are getting 5 days detox, 21 days maximum residential treatment, and now they're ready to, and that's maximum. A lot of times it's 14 days. And now they're ready to go in, either go home or go to a sober living environment and start doing things outpatient, which means now they're in charge of their medication. They're in charge to getting places on time. None of that is possible at 3 weeks sober.
No way.
Yeah, I agree.
Your brain is not even
even
back
close
to normalcy.
Right. That's right. It takes time, and in today's sort of day. So you set up really well, Chad. In today's day and age, with the drugs that we're seeing in the field right now, it's the fentanyl and methamphetamine dance, right? And so, to your point, Natalie, with the brain, I mean, we're seeing psychosis with methamphetamine by itself, let alone all these mixes, lasting sometimes 18 plus months, to the point where folks are not even at a place where you can apply therapy, let alone do we have protocols for methamphetamine use. So you speak to, getting the brain set. How if this person had a one-off and they're like, whoa, I need to get this taken care of, that's a different story. We don't see those. We see people that have been struggling with addiction for years a lot of times, right?
Yep.
And their brains have found a new normal. Their bodies have found a new normal. It's not a good normal, but you start applying a lifestyle change and expect that the Titanic's going to turn in 3 weeks. It's a tough one. And here, I'm not here to say, insurance companies are bad or they're good or they're this or they're that. It is what it is. But we all know that in order for a healthy lifestyle to really take, there's got to be opportunity. There's got to be time. There's got to be things that replace those negative behaviors. It can't just be take it away. It's got to be, hey, what can we replace it with? Well, that takes time. All of this, MAT, abstinence, harm reduction, all of these things that are available and more, cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever it may be, they take time, and if you put someone back out in the wild that doesn't have the wherewithal or the tools to be able to then continue that lifestyle change, it is a dangerous, it's not even 50-50. It's almost like you put them in the wild and it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
All the work that you've done, even if it's 2 weeks, it's still a lot of work, but you got to start many times over again if they relapse or when, they relapse. And relapsing now is with fentanyl and meth and the advent of things like carfentanil and different, it's not only relapsing. It's like, is this person going to live?
Yeah.
You know, it's, I know people are like, oh, you know, one pill can kill. Yeah, one pill can freaking kill.
That's what
one
killed Justin.
Powder. Okay. Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that.
I pressed Percocet.
Yeah.
You know, it was fentanyl. It wasn't Percocet.
Nope, it rarely is. That's
Looked
the
like
thing.
Percocet.
They're very good at pressing a tab that looks like a pharmaceutical.
Yeah, we had the Orange County Sheriff on, and he said that they look better.
Yes, they do. Actually, that is a good point.
That's a sign.
do.
If it looks too real,
Yeah,
it's probably not real.
right.
But I think that's what's scary.
The other thing is if you didn't get it from the pharmacy yourself, you didn't go pick it up yourself, and it was prescribed to you, the likelihood is it's not real.
Right. That's exactly right. And they're very good, not at mixing. They're not pharmacy.
Oh, no, they're
techs.
horrible
not
at
whatever.
mixing.
Yeah. So even people are like, don't worry, you know, I cut it in half or I cut it in a quarter. Oh, that's doing nothing.
Yeah,
That's doing
that
nothing.
quarter could be the where it's all at. Because I don't think people understand that it is the size of a salt,
Yeah,
a salt grain.
yeah.
Not like the good salt that you get that
Himalayan.
yeah, not the
yeah,
Himalayan
yeah.
salt. Talking about the
Table salt.
Table salt.
Regular. Yeah. For carfentanil, it's not new, but a lot of people don't really know all that much about it. Yeah. But that we had a salt shaker, to your point, Chad, and we just kind of dumped a little bit out. If that one little granule was carfentanil, to most naive consumers, that would be lethal. That's how powerful. 10,000 times more potent than morphine.
why do they
use.
call it this carfentanil?
So
Is it the one that they're putting on literally cars?
no,
Okay.
that's a good question though. But no, the names of them are derived because they're analogs to fentanyl, and an analog is just like a family member. So you know, fentanyl's the mom, and parafluorofentanyl or carfentanil or something else. They're like the kids. They are derived from that main molecule.
Wow.
But here's what I think, you guys, and this is not a Millennium thing. This is a Kelly thing. With the research that I'm doing, I think what's happening is back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we really saw natural and semi-synthetics really driving overdose deaths. Like, it started to really kind of pick up at that point. 2007, 8, we started to see heroin sitting in the driver's seat for that. Around 2014, that's when we saw fentanyl taking over. Do you see a pattern there? Not only are we going from natural and semi-synthetics to full-on synthetics, but we're also pushing tolerance. So fentanyl has been the real bad guy for the longest time. Now it's the next wave is like fentanyl and stimulants. But you bring something like a carfentanil in that has no human use. It's an animal tranquilizer, an opioid, but large animal tranquilizer. Now you're pushing the dose. They tried to put it into drug channels in 2014-ish. We started to see some positives. People were dying.
Oh my.
Too many people dying is not good for the bottom line, right? A little bit is fine, good for marketing.
Right.
But too many people, and you're taking away your bottom line. They pulled back. And again, I have no data on this. I'm just looking at what I see in front of me. Pull back that heavier dose. You put out something like fentanyl, get people to a point where, yeah, this is what I want. This is what I want. I can change the high with a stimulant. Now let's put a little bit more of that carfentanil into circulation. Better for the bottom line because you need a granule. And they're making way more money on carfentanil than they did with fentanyl, and it was really lucrative with fentanyl. So it angers me so much to think that it's like this, you know, this stepwise. Let's just get them hooked, get them hooked, get them hooked, and then something more and more, you know, stronger, more and more powerful comes out, and people want that because now their body can handle it. They're tolerant to it.
Problem that happens though is the addicts actually, you know, at some point don't want to live that life anymore because it is a horrible life to live. And then they want to go to treatment, and then we put them in treatment. We get 30, 60, 90 days, and still the relapse rate is high. And that's when they die.
Right.
They don't die when they have been out there on the streets for a long time. They die when we get them sober and they go back out and use one more time.
You use one more time.
And it's not, I mean, we used to, I've been around the program a long, long time. And in Narcotics Anonymous, they've always said, if you make it back, do you have another recovery? People will always say, I have another run in me, but do I have another recovery?
Ooh.
You know, and it's like, if you make it back is a very real statement nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, when it was heroin, it was a lot less. I mean, you can do a half a gram or a quarter of a gram instead of doing your full gram that you did before you went. But now it's like, and fentanyl's not scary. Heroin is scary, right? It's scary because in California, heroin looks like black tar.
Right.
It's nasty. It stinks.
You can see it.
You can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fentanyl, you can't see it.
No. And you guys, we're really being hit with powders now too. You know, that's the pills are still around. Absolutely. We've got confiscations with liquid heroin. It's still around, but we're getting more powders. And to your point, Chad, if it's not black tar something, or it's not pink something or whatever, because there's this thing called pink cocaine out there too that they're fighting with. If it's not visually different than a white powder, you literally can cut anything in it.
Yeah.
Give a little baggie out and that's it. You know, so you have no idea. And fentanyl, just for perspective here, when you're looking at fentanyl that's been pharmaceutically made and given in a hospital for severe pain, this is not something willy-nilly given out. You're looking at, what is it, like 0.25 micrograms or so. I mean, it's tiny. It's really, really tiny. On the street, it could be 1 milligram. It could be 2 milligrams. Like you have no red clue what you're going to get. Oftentimes the dealers don't know. The mid-levels are mixing. They're cutting. They're, throwing out the demand for these things. The dealers are just running the drugs or running the substances. People are coming up to them. Hey, do you have a Dirty 30? Hey, do you have a Benny? Do you have this? Do you have that? Yeah, I got it. And they give it to them. And it's completely different than even what the dealer thinks it is. Now, I'm not giving them a wide berth and going, good on you, you're working, man.
Right.
They're not good people either, but they don't often know what it is that they're giving their clients because they've been told.
Hence why it's hard to arrest them for a murder or attempted murder.
Yeah, can be tough.
That's why that's what the sheriff said. Because I'm like, can we just call it all a poisoning? Because any dose of illicit fentanyl, to me, there's no safe dose of illicit fentanyl. So every dose is a poisoning, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It may not be that way to the law. So I actually, we started really using the word fentanyl poisoning because we never say overdose over here because I don't think people are overdosing because there's no underdosing or there's no regular dosing. There's no scheduled dose of illicit fentanyl.
Right.
So what have you seen over the last, especially the last 5 years? I will tell you one thing that we've seen. People coming in as methamphetamine addicts, not knowing that their meth has been cut with fentanyl. They come into detox for their very first time. We do a urine screen, and boom, they're positive for fentanyl.
Yeah. And they're mad.
Oh yeah.
They're like, no way.
Way different detox than what they're expecting. If they'd ever detox just meth by themselves, that's not that hard.
Right.
Give me a Valium and some food and I'm good.
In a bed.
In a bed, yeah, please. In
exactly.
a bed.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, to your point, it's even different. Like, remember when we touched on it just briefly about the psychosis with methamphetamine?
Yeah.
With the advent of a more potent methamphetamine, which has been pretty recent, like, I don't know, 5 or so years. And not only the potency, but purity kind of has been played around with too, right? So you've got folks that are coming in on things and they are beside themselves going, there's no freaking way that I did fentanyl. There's no way that I did this or that. And it's showing up in their urine, unbeknownst to them. Now, that's not to say everybody doesn't know what they're doing, because there is still folks that are saying, you know what, I know what I'm doing. I like opioids, but I don't like how sedate I feel, so I'm going to put a little stimulant on board, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't like how wired I feel with a stimulant. I'm going to put a little bit of an opioid on board. But the combination of the two, for those that are choosing it, these are conscious choices for a lot of folks, but we can't discount the fact that there are people that are getting bamboozled. They're like I said, they're thinking they're getting something, and it's not. But right now, it is the opioid stimulant. It's that dance that we're seeing the most out there, and I would say probably for the last 2, 3, 4 years, it's been like that, and it's just kind of ramped up. And I see some of our data up there on the wall. This one here is, these are all interesting. Can you just scroll down just a little bit? No, I just want to see the top of that.
The other one.
Yeah, there we go. Section 1. Okay, nope. Scroll back again. Yeah. So you see the title of this. It says a snapshot of recent trends in UDT positivity with fentanyl. So fentanyl is found, and then what else is there, right? So when you look at things like fentanyl and methamphetamine, for example, that's not what we're seeing here. This is looking simply just at fentanyl. And I say simply, we saw fentanyl by itself in all of the specimens we looked at when we published last year. We have the signals report that we publish every February for our customers and stakeholders. Mm-hmm. We saw fentanyl by itself only 7% of the time. That's it. 7%. Wow. 93% of the time, it's got one or more illicit, recreational, or non-prescribed substance in the cup at the same time. Now, what we don't know is how it got there. Right. So did the person use fentanyl and meth together because they wanted it? Did they use it because they weren't sure? Did they, have it kind of spread out in terms of when they took it? We don't know that. But that was pretty astounding. And then we looked at fentanyl positive with methamphetamine across the nation. 60% of the specimens, 60%, when we found fentanyl, had methamphetamine.
I'll say that's probably very true to my facility, that 60% of our opioid fentanyl users are also meth and fentanyl. Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
80% of our clients are meth and fentanyl.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of makes sense though. You want to be up, and then you want to come down to go night.
That's right. And actually, Natalie, to your point, that's another piece to this too. When we talk about things like Narcan and how, there are more doses that are required. A lot of times, on average, it's 4 or 5 doses of Narcan.
You know what's crazy? I just read an article. So Ray Lewis played in the NFL, stud. He lost his son in 2023 from the narrative. And this is also a big topic, is like, we're not just talking about like drug addicts and alcoholics that come to treatment. This is hitting your front doorstep, because it's one of those things. Even a kid that's in college that wants to recreational use, that they do go out and they're with their friends and they think they're taking, say, an ecstasy pill to go to a rave, but they have no idea that it's actually laced with fentanyl, and then they die. So they call it an overdose. But where it gets a little dicey is, I'm not quite sure how many of those cases are really overdoses, because how do we know if they were trying to just take, say, a Percocet or something that is not supposed to kill them, and then they ended up on accident getting something that was laced with fentanyl, and then, obviously they but my point of the story was, when they got to his place, they had to do multiple Narcans, but they could not revive him by the time he was taken to the hospital. So one Narcan is...
It's not enough.
No.
This is not enough.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy, because we all carry a dose, because we're like, this is good. We got it in our briefcases, we got it in our cars, whatever it may be. And that's awesome. But I'm telling you, you need to have more than just that one dose on hand. And you guys, like if you, sometimes I'll have this visual where I'll have people stand up and put their hands up like this. And for those of you that aren't seeing this, it's like putting your hands up like you're getting ready to fight somebody, essentially, and making a fist. And when that fentanyl is coming through the blood and it attaches to that opioid receptor, it attaches with so much more affinity or strength than, say, a tramadol, like, another painkiller type thing. And then the downstream events are increased by the potency of what's attaching to that receptor. So if that receptor is covered with fentanyl, Narcan, essentially, I'm going to use my head here. It bounces off the receptor, right? Because it can't see that receptor. And in order for Narcan to do its job, it has to dock on the receptor.
Wow.
So if fentanyl's there, Narcan's not going to do anything. It's just going to go buzz on by. So that's what happens when somebody overdoses on, and I know you don't like that word, but when somebody goes down with opioids on their system, breathing, decreases, heart rate decreases, all the rest of it, as that fentanyl releases from the receptor, that's when Narcan can do its thing. Because now you've got a raw receptor, Narcan comes in, now fentanyl bounces off. But Narcan attaches and detaches so quickly that then all of a sudden an opportunistic fentanyl can come in and attach. So as it's moving through the system, more Narcan may be needed in order to be able to then protect that receptor. And the reason why they tell us that if we're in the field and we apply Narcan and we do get someone back from overdosing, what happens is you get them to the hospital because they likely have more fentanyl in their system that's going to come back and overwhelm those receptors and put them back into that same position again. So that's how essentially these substances are working in the brain. And we don't realize, how important that is to protect that receptor from something powerful like a fentanyl. And that's why Narcan, we're needing 3, 4, or 5 doses at least.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
it's
horrifying.
a big deal.
Which a topic I had come up the other day is the cost of fentanyl.
Of Narcan.
Narcan is way too high.
Yeah, it's a little out of control. Yeah. Yeah. And oh my gosh,
we can give away. Never mind.
I gotta tell you this on the Narcan front. So it's wonderful, and I encourage people, like we were saying, have it in your car, have it in your backpack, whatever. But you guys probably already know this. Nothing gets by you with your clients. But we've been hearing tell of folks that are stockpiling meth. So if by chance an opioid is a drug of choice and they want to get high with an opioid, they will get themselves meth, not to use in combination per se to kind of change the high, but in case they start to go into an overdose situation. And if they've got the wherewithal enough to be able to then add the meth, they think that, and I hope I'm not doing this and then people are getting ideas from it, but they'll erroneously, so mistakenly use that methamphetamine to get them out of that, pull them back from the depths sort of thing. Rarely does it work because of the timing. That fentanyl is overwhelming those opioid receptors quickly. And so rarely do you get a chance to do, to bring in that methamphetamine. And getting back to Narcan, same. Narcan is sort of being stockpiled.
Yeah, it is.
And it's good if people are utilizing an opioid. You want to have it around your family, your friends, whatever. But then using that as a way, again, to stave off that overdose feeling, kind of bring them back. And then you can either use more and I'm like, don't do this because it's going to overwhelm those receptors. And Narcan then you're going to need even more doses of that in order to bring you back. It's just, do not do this. You're out on the edge and you may not ever come back. And you think that you're playing and you're doing, things right. It is the scariest thing possible to be your own chemist like that.
I was going to say chemist.
Yeah.
They're trying to.
You're right.
I mean, thank God I got sober before fentanyl because my drug of choice is IV methamphetamines, and my preference would be Valium to level me off. But I would, granted, I would go into straight meth and do psychosis with the best of them.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be working for the CIA and on missions and doing just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just
Yeah.
straight psychosis.
Yeah.
But there were times when I'd be like, whew, I need to sleep. I need to come down. I would have definitely bought what I would have thought would have been Valium or something. And that sometimes it was heroin. But I do want to say that, you know, that prior to fentanyl, a drug of choice was meth and heroin. And they would put it in the same syringe. Mm-hmm. And you would shoot you would put the heroin in last, so the heroin would hit you first, and then bam, then the meth would hit you. Is that the trick that they're trying to do? I mean, I get it. They're trying to get really high with the fentanyl because that's the high they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And then they're hitting themselves. They called them goofballs.
Yes. Yep.
Which they should have called them speedballs, but that was already taken by the Belushis, John Belushi, because that was meth or heroin and coke.
And coke, yep. That's right.
And you see it in movies also, like see in television shows. Like I can't remember what I was watching, but like they got kind of drugged and they were nodding out, and then all of a sudden they just did a huge line of cocaine, and it like brought them back to life as if they're the Incredible Hulk. So it's like trying to play this Russian roulette.
You're
nonsense.
Playing Russian roulette though, because how what's the likelihood that the methamphetamine is going to overtake fentanyl? Fentanyl is
pretty powerful. Yeah. And timing.
I was just gonna say the timing, the dose, everything is good luck.
Yeah.
And you're fucked up.
Yeah.
Like good luck.
Totally right. It's totally right.
Not in your you're not. It's.
I mean, that's why we preach lifestyle change in this health. And like, I mean, you know, if I could say anything to people that are out there that are getting loaded, because I've been there. Like I have been there. I have been stuck. And there is no better life than the life that I live today.
Yeah. Amen.
Not even close. Right. Yep. There is no high that any of these drugs gave me, because those drugs also gave me misery.
Yep.
Than the high that I get just like doing this podcast right here. Like what? Because I'm out of my, you know, originally I was out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And I conquered a fear and and now I'm doing it. Now I do it.
Yep. Well, they say nothing, what is it? Nothing worth its weight in salt is easy. Like things are hard.
For sure.
You get a university
as they should be, or else you wouldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it, or everybody would, or whatever. You get to the top of the hill, and you're like, man.
You went to school for 10 years, and you were
it was like, hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but now you're able to speak about the brain and make it sexy.
Yes. Yeah. And finally cool.
Yes.
And that has taken me how many years? You know.
And who says to if it didn't take that much time, and all the things that you had to go through and navigate through, and then now you're here, would you be as maybe appreciative or grateful for the knowledge that you have gained throughout that process? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. When you guys were talking about just kind of going back to, especially things that it's almost like it's glorified.
Sure.
You know, and no shade at all. I mean, we're in LA. I love Motley Crue. You see Nikki, if you're listening, we're talking about you, dude. But you know, that movie that they were in, you know, his struggle with heroin. Yeah. He had such a horrible upbringing that heroin gave him that solace, that he was romanticizing
totally.
it. And so many people have done that, you know, and you think about it, exactly what you said, Chad, that's all this little comfort. It's what you know. It's easy, quote unquote. Yeah. To get over here and to get clean and to get living that life. I mean, look at his life now. Look at your life now. Look at all of our lives after we go through adversity. You don't ever want to go back. But it's hell walking that corridor between where you want to be and where you're at right now, because it is so comfortable. Your brain is at that new normal. It wants to stay there. It's like anything else that we try to better ourselves with, like you were saying, Natalie. Yeah. So I'm so glad that you said that, and that should really be a mantra, that what you think right now is good is not even going to compare to what you've got waiting for you on the other side of recovery. Always. There's nothing better than that. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to stink, and it's going to hurt.
I mean,
and
it still
whatever.
Stinks sometimes, and it still hurts, and it's still hard, because that's actually life.
It's life. Yeah.
Life is not like easy, but it's worth it.
Absolutely.
It's worth taking the hard road.
Yep.
It's worth doing what others won't.
Yes. Yes. That absolutely.
And there's too many stories of people walking through the fire and making it to the other side. When you come to, what popped into my head was even Steven Tyler. He battled
right.
for a very long time.
That's
and had his bouts with all of the above, and has made it to the other side. There's too many stories of individuals walking different paths of life through the fire, through the darkness, and then all saying the same thing when they get to the other side. And it's all very similar in the fact that they wouldn't change it, and they're so happy that they made it through the fire by doing all of the work that's required to get there. But it's difficult. No one can say that it's not, because it requires a lot of work, and it requires you to dig deep and to stay with it.
I just want to say
right.
another thing, though. It requires a lot of work to stay stuck where you're at. It takes a lot of work, especially like we're specifically talking about, addiction, right? It takes a lot of work to get up every day, go find your drugs.
That's right.
For nothing.
Yep.
For nothing.
Yeah.
To
There's
feel
no gain.
nothing.
No.
There's no gain.
No.
And it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So choose what you want to do.
Right.
Choose which work you want to put in. I can assure people that walking through the fire and walking through the pain and everything you have to walk through is way easier than staying stuck running on a hamster wheel chasing a disease,
Right.
an addiction.
Yeah. That's right.
Steven Tyler, I saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast. He asked Joe asked him, do you ever think about going back? And he's like, yeah, but if I do, I lose everything.
Yeah.
That's
right.
facts. And now more than ever,
Everything.
we can die because it's not a matter of like
Trying it
yeah.
again, or-
No.
Yeah,
It's
you're right.
not.
Totally. For me to go pick up right now, who knows what I'm getting?
That's right.
Were you talking
Yeah.
about the movie with what that MGK was in?
Yeah.
Machine Gun Kelly. He
Yeah,
played
yeah.
he played Tommy
He
Lee.
played
Yeah.
Tommy. Yeah.
That's a good
It was a great movie.
man.
It was a good movie because
It
it
was.
showed what happened when they put in the work. And I'm not saying people are perfect and they're probably
Of
still
course.
drinking and whatever. I don't know, but whatever. But you look at Nikki's journey as an example. And again, I don't know him personally,
Of course.
whatever. But if, like I said, if you're listening, Nikki, we love you. But if these folks in such high pressure, high stress, they've got everything coming to them for free, whatever they wanted. To your point, Chad, it still is a choice, and it's harder to stay in that when, Natalie, what you said about you want to be over here. You want to be clear. You want to be amazing at your craft. You want to zone in on what you're good at and the lifestyle that you can have. This lifestyle of shooting up heroin and, all these parties and all this stuff, it may seem kind of glamorous on the outside, but it's hell. It's a living hell. And to get to the other side of that recovery, where now you're making music with a clear head, or you're making you're painting with a clear mind, or you're doing this or doing that. Regular folks like me, if you can do your job with a clear mind and you've got a healthy family, a healthy body, a healthy mind, that's a bazillion times better than any party or any whatever line of Coke that you could do back there, because this is longevity. This is true living. This is the blessing that we're supposed to be in, but too often we get glamorized by this, this other life, and it's not, it's fake. It is so
I got glamorized by that. Like I didn't have, because I got addicted when I was 13. So I didn't know anything until I was 22. I didn't know that I was going to live any other way. And then I was introduced to a new way to live. I built this life, amazing life. And then all of a sudden I started thinking about things are different now. And, I thought that if I went out and drank and used, it was going to be different this time. It was going to be a party. It was going to be a hip hop video with, lots of good looking women and I had money and all this stuff. And guess what happened when I got loaded? I was all by myself in that big ass house, all alone, isolated.
Yeah.
With my shadow friends.
Yeah.
The shadow people.
Yeah, and that's no way to live. It's terrible.
It was miserable.
Yeah.
Well,
and then I was stuck though.
Yeah, because that's what happens.
That's what happens.
It does. Yeah. Yeah,
The one thing that your brain also doesn't forget, it doesn't forget that old normal.
No.
So you go back to that old normal, you're back there like this.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
In a second.
Trigger, whatever, or you physically go back there. Yeah.
Because let me ask you some of these kind of questions, because your pathways, neural pathways, right? So through addiction, we develop these neural pathways that make us stuck in this new comfortable. So we get sober, we get clean. We've got to develop new neural pathways, right? But the old pathways don't close up.
Not fully. Like you speak to a good point. Remember earlier when we were talking about replacing the negative with something positive, and it's not this woo-woo, just think positively and life will be great. No, it's actually, there are power in our thoughts, don't get me wrong, but it's replacing, like those neural pathways, laying down healthier pathways so that your brain finds this new level, this healthy new level. But the old pathways, especially when, my best example of this is, you wore a cologne or a perfume in high school, and it's now 20 years post, and you smell that, and you've never worn it after that. Dracar Noir, or one of those things.
Yeah,
all the dudes.
Shane still wears that Dracar Noir.
It's nice.
Yeah.
I remember it. And then there was another one called Exclamation, and it was
Oh
like
my
an
gosh.
exclamation
Yeah, I totally.
point.
I
used to wear
Oh
that.
my gosh.
I couldn't stand this. Sorry, the people that make that,
Yeah.
whatever. But I couldn't stand to wear it after high school. But I'll tell you what, 20 years later, when I smell that exclamation or that Dracar, I'm right back there in the school again, in the hallway. Same thing with our brains. Like, you may not have ever thought of Dracar until I said it, and you smell it, and instantly you're there.
Yeah.
That's
Root.
you were old.
Oh God!
Oh, wow.
There's nothing
That's
worse.
even older.
There's
That's
nothing
even
worse.
My
than
brothers did
Brute
Root
smells
twice.
like an alcoholic
Yeah.
who's been drinking all night.
Stay
and
on
the
course,
vomit
boys.
is
Because
coming out.
I'm following you. So it's just.
So it brings back that memory, right?
Yeah.
So we've got places in our, think of it like filing cabinets.
Yeah.
There's an area in our brain called the hippocampus. I always look at it like I'm pulling out filing cabinets, and there are files of memories in that big cabinet. Well, it's the same thing with triggers, sense, somebody's voice, whatever, and people will tell you as well, you know what, I don't normally smoke, but weirdest thing, when I got a beer in my hand, I just light up a cigarette, and it's a pathway that has been indelible in our brains, or it's been cut into, that's not a great word, but it's been put into our brains. But you can step away from that and lay down the healthier pathways. Look, I'm going to be grabbing for that glass of water, and I'm going to train myself that water is my go-to. And it happens. But I'm telling you, you put that beer in your hand, and you're thinking, where's my, I don't need a cigarette, So you're replacing it with something healthy, like that glass of water that you've been now drinking for the last 10 years. You've been turning to water. But there's always that like, you've got to be really careful. Most of the time, you're so distant from it over time that it's just kind of makes you smile. You're like, there you are, and then you can walk away from it. But if you don't have that distance, you don't have that positive replacement, you don't have those reinforcements for those healthier pathways, you're absolutely right. Water finds its level, and it'll go back down that pathway if there's nothing to replace it, nothing healthy to replace it. Easy.
Hence the daily reprieve and having to stay diligent and constantly, because we will go back down to the pathways because we easily forget until we stay on it.
That's right. That's exactly it. It takes practice, and some people say, 66 days, or some people say this or that. Sure. I don't know. I think the jury's out as to really what. I think there's some strength in, a certain amount of time for sure into laying down a new
healthy
pathway,
habits.
Healthy habits.
Yeah.
just keep doing it.
Yeah,
Don't
right.
shoot for 66 days or whatever it is. Like, just keep on doing. It's a lifestyle.
For sure.
Like, this is something we need to encompass forever in our lives. And it's not hard once you shift. You know, the pastor at my church once, it was really interesting. He said, we all have autopilot. And if we only let the autopilot do its thing, we can be over here and we can be eating Mediterranean and drinking water and all the, but if you don't reset your autopilot, you're right back to where you were again. So it's resetting that autopilot just to even a degree. So that maybe you're drinking, 3 glasses of water instead of 3 cans of an energy drink. No, you know what? I'm going to have 1 can and I'm going to have 3 glasses of water. Well, that's a little change to that autopilot. And pretty soon, you're on a whole new course.
Pretty soon, water starts tasting better than anything else that you drink.
Absolutely.
Like, I love water.
Yeah.
Water is,
Right.
I feel like, water is life.
It is. We're 70% water.
We have to have the water,
really.
and like it really tastes good to me. I just like to have some water. Couple things. One thing I wanted to ask before you came in here, did you have anything that you were thinking about that you wanted to get out to us, to the audience, and maybe any statistics before I ask you a question about that's off the topic of this?
Well, I really wanted to talk. I knew just in talking with my colleagues, with Adam and Ashley, I knew that I could speak about healthy lifestyles with you guys. I knew that was something that would be welcomed, and I love that. I mean, that's my bread and butter. So I was happy about that. But one thing we didn't touch on all that much were alcohol statistics.
Yes.
And we did, we did a study. We published it just before Memorial Day weekend this year. And what we're finding was, how people always talk about the COVID effect and this is what happened. I don't even know if I can say the C word on podcast, but whatever, it is what it is. But there it is. Oh, nice. Thanks, you guys, for pulling that up. So if you scroll up to where that graph is on the left-hand side, just like that, you can see time on the x-axis there on the left-hand side of your screen. So 2018 to April 2024. So really timely data as well. We pride ourselves on making sure it's timely, because if it's past, it's obsolete almost. So if you look on the upright, you'll see the alcohol, urine drug test positivity rates there. The blue line is folks that have an alcohol use disorder diagnosis. So they're already a high risk group. The orange line that you see, that's those that are in substance use disorder treatment, but they've not been given that alcohol use diagnosis. So look at the spread there already just in positivity back in 2018. So we definitely see both groups have been drinking, but those with an AUD are still more positive. The dotted line that you see just kind of left of center there, that's the declaration of COVID-19 as a national emergency, March 13th, 2020. Look what happened to those solid lines. So those in the AUD category or high risk, they increased even quicker and more positivity with alcohol versus those that didn't have. So basically what that's telling us is those in high risk were utilizing alcohol at a greater rate, so much so that they're basically 20% higher than what they were back in 2019. Like, it hit them hard.
Yeah.
And then that kind of wavy dotted line that you see, that's all seasonality. And you can see peaks and troughs there, or valleys. The peaks are summer positivity. The valleys are winter positivity. So you see that the positivity rates increase tremendously in the summer, decrease in the winter. Yeah, exactly.
Sun.
A lot of this is sun,
Rain.
Barbecues, getting outside.
Totally.
Yep. But the winter time, somebody said, well, what about, Christmas parties or New Year's or we only know hockey, so that football celebration you guys have.
Super Bowl.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, what about that? Well, all of that combined did not go over the summertime values.
Wow.
Summertime, people crushed it with drinking. And so you can see that, again, high risk, they're already drinking more. But then when a trauma, anxiety-ridden time frame occurred back in 2020, you just saw that skyrocket. And this is not alcohol sales or what's in the wastewater. This is actually what's in folks' urine that are seeking care. So we are missing probably
a ton,
and it's already really poignant. You know,
yeah, those are
I'm
just
curious.
people that are trying to, they know they have
Yeah,
a
help.
problem and they were trying to get help.
I'm
Exactly.
curious
There's
on what
so
the
many that
line
are-
looks like just for the Pacific or California, Southern California, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
like we don't really have winter. So
That's right. You may not have that peak and trough.
yeah, I was just I was curious. I'm curious, but I do see that the Pacific is higher in general. Well, actually,
Yeah.
the west, north, central is
Yeah.
that beats us all.
That Minnesota.
Oh wait,
That's
east, south, central. Whoa.
I know, right? As you go
As-
down, you can
like-
see so much higher.
That's
but
crazy.
Pacific, I mean, we went from what was that, 20.5% in 2019 up to almost 26% in 2023.
Yeah.
It's about a 25% change. So, I mean, it's going up. So it's not, I actually thought it was going to be higher. And I know that sounds really bad. I'm very jaded, clearly. You know, where's my optimism,
Right.
my Canadian optimism? But I thought it was even going to be higher, but I'm still staggered by these. And do you know what? Do you know how many media outlets picked this up?
None.
There was one. That's it.
Who
one.
was it?
I don't know.
Well.
I'm not even sure, actually. I oftentimes will give the interviews and stuff like that, but then my colleague Eric, he will give the lion's share of it, and he's like, Kelly, there was one media outlet that picked that up. Our opioid ones and different things, yeah, we'll get more. We work with NIDA, we work with CDC, we work with a bunch of different agencies, and news agencies will pick that up left, right, and center. But alcohol, nope. One person touched it, and that was it.
Legal, and they're making money off of it, and it's one thing that continued to stay open during COVID when it was a national emergency. So that's insane. And then the other one is,
Did somebody tell me that strip clubs stayed open?
I don't know if I mean, I think they might have. I'm not quite sure on that one, but I know like liquor stores and things of that nature, they were fine.
Right.
They were okay. You can go still pick up your
essential.
bottle.
That's right.
Like,
or have it delivered.
Yeah, or have it
whatever.
delivered.
Well,
so
that
I'm not
actually
surprised.
COVID made
Yeah.
that more prevalent because
That's right.
people weren't doing that until COVID.
Right.
But that goes along with like the whole kind of into your brain health, into health in general. You're taking this national emergency. Now you're taking people and putting them in self-isolation, which when you go to jail, the number one thing they do for people that are being bad is put them in solitary confinement. The human body, the brain, is not supposed to be like that. You're not supposed to isolate and just be by yourself because you will go crazy. So then you have these people that are already suffering. What are they going to do? They don't have the toolbox that we are given when we do step into the program and we do step into recovery. Then you're able to handle your emotions and self-regulate and be super more self-aware, and you're able to handle certain situations where prior to that, all you want to do is escape because you don't like the reality that you're living in. So you want to pick up and use. And that's what you see with COVID. That's going to increase. And that, like what you said, those are just people that they know they have a problem and they're seeking help.
right.
How about all the other Americans that are still either in denial or not quite sure, but now they're picking up and they're having the drink, and now it's turning into 2 bottles of wine at night. And that trickles into their family, into their business, into their actual health.
Right.
So it's so much more than just a addict or an alcoholic. It's like it's a widespread kind of, I feel like it's kind of taking over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're
people
right.
aren't realizing
And we're
it.
not it's kind of flying under the radar, so to speak. Yeah, 'cause
Exactly.
it's more accepted,
Yeah.
really, versus say someone doing heroin. Ooh, wow. Give me a vodka 7, please.
Well, and also going back to even the reference of kind of the rock star lifestyle,
Yeah.
you have this fantasy thinking like, oh, famous, money, women, all of the things that you can ever wish that you can have, but your family doesn't love you. You're not dependable. You're not participating in being a actual contributing member of society. That's what the human is craving. The human is craving to be, of some type of worth.
Right.
Now, when you step out of that and you come over here, then you're a dependable person. Somebody can call you for help. You can show up on time. People know that you're gonna not wreck you're not gonna steal from me. Certain things like that, and that's what kind of I feel ends up filling people's cup more than they realized.
Yeah.
Once they walk through the fire.
I totally agree with you. It's like getting the focus off of poor me, I'm this,
Totally.
I'm this, and putting it into not only healthy lifestyle, changes, etc., but helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the biggest ways to get out of a funk, and not even
For
talking
sure.
about, alcohol use
Yes.
or drug abuse, whatever, is to help somebody else.
Yes. Get out of your own head.
Get out of your own head and contribute
true.
and help people. Go to a soup kitchen and actually volunteer or
For sure.
whatever, but get out of your head and just start helping people when it's appropriate. Like when you're down and out and you're in the bottom of the basement
Sure.
of life. Even then, if you could help somebody, doggone it, that might pull you out.
Right.
But get that help and get to a point where then that's something that becomes second nature to you.
Mm-hmm.
Helping somebody out, scooping a bit of soup for somebody. It's like powerful
Mm-hmm.
to be able to give back, right?
Service.
Yeah, service.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like the whole be maximum service to God and others.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
And it's
mine.
hard.
Totally agree.
But that's just life. And I think everybody is searching for some miracle drug that all of a sudden life is going to be easy breezy.
Right.
But it does. I hate to break it to everyone. It doesn't exist. So going to your local physician and trying to get a happy pill and all your problems are just going to all of a sudden be all good.
Right.
That doesn't exist either. I have many friends that have tried to go on antidepressants.
The commercial
and have been
says
miserable.
it does.
Yeah.
The commercial says it does.
It
You know
does.
what?
And it says
Doggone it.
and it says and death. That's never
All
good.
these symptoms.
Yeah.
All of them have all of these pills have sexual side effects
Right.
and or death.
Or
Right.
bleeding out of your ass. So it's like
Like,
literally, it's crazy.
I don't want any of those.
No.
Don't get all weird, Shane, because
Yeah, I know. Stop
You know
it.
what I'm thinking? I'm thinking to change the lifestyle, you need good food, you need activity, you need exercise, you need moral support, you need a team. People don't have that
No,
today.
that's a good point.
They don't have any of it. So the chances, sure, we could give them 120 fucking days here in treatment.
Yep.
We're going to throw them out. They're going to be alone. They're going to eat fast food. Fast food's going to make them feel lazy. They're going to feel couch worthy.
Boy.
They're going to watch
What-
TV. They're going to
what's
gain
his
some weight.
point
They're not
to
going to
this?
go to the gym. They're
Right.
going to get back on the drug.
I disagree because that's like a victim mentality because no one's
But that's
coming to
the majority of people.
yeah, but you need to pull your head out of your ass and
But that's
no
why
one's coming to save
I'm
you.
just taking statistics.
No, I
agree. No one is fucking coming.
Totally.
No
5%.
one's
But
coming. And,
that's-
and you don't need a
But that's the
village.
problem.
You need
You need the
you
willingness
need-
and the discipline. Period.
Yeah.
Because
5% of people have it. That's all I'm saying.
You
It's
see-
5% success rate.
You-
That's there for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to I'm just putting a spotlight on the reasons why it's only 5% success rate.
It's a
Yeah,
good
and
point.
the thing is that no, his point is taken because he is correct. Like the statistics of Alcoholics Anonymous
Yeah.
is 5%.
Yeah.
Not even, I don't think.
It's yeah, we're probably giving him a little love.
Yeah, little.
But
yeah.
but the thing is 100% of the people that are willing to
Yes.
do the work
yes,
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a solution. I don't have stage 5 cancer and dying.
Right.
I'm dying if I'm not doing my program. That's a huge win.
Yeah.
But I'm required to do the work. And if I'm not doing that, then I will end up losing everything and be miserable and we're done.
Right. But
Super done.
Yeah.
Super done.
Yeah, there's no going
I've
back.
tried the
no,
other
there's
way.
no
So
going
it's so you have which glass are you looking at? You know,
Yeah.
which way do you
Always
want to
half
look
full.
at it?
Got to.
Got to be.
Got to.
Yeah.
So I love
I'm a-
that what you said because it is true. 100% of the
Well,
ones.
I'm a big advocate of feeding all of your senses with positivity because you know we always talk about food, right? We talk about that a lot, and that's extremely important to your mental health, to your all healths,
Right.
physical, mental,
brain, gut.
brain,
yeah.
gut, all of it. But we can't stop there.
Yeah.
You know, the next question I ask people, and I ask our audience all the time, is, what are you listening to?
That's right.
What are
Your
you watching?
eye
What are
gaze,
you
your
What are
ear
you
gaze.
feeding your eyes?
Yeah.
Are you feeding your eyes crap all day long?
That's right.
Are you feeding your ears crud all day long? I mean, I do, prayers, meditation. I do audio books, not on junk, but on leadership, positivity, self-help. I got to throw in some good TV shows though to keep me, keep that little street cred going on. So I got to watch some gangster shows where they're selling drugs. There
has to be like balance of like
and then every once in a while you got
joy.
That's right.
You got to throw on some
that's entertainment.
Yeah, because you know what?
Yes.
No matter how healthy you are, and I don't know this for everybody. I'm just going to speak for myself. No matter how healthy I am, every once in a while I need two things. I need an In-N-Out burger, and I need a donut.
So Californian.
I need a greasy,
I love
fried donut from a good donut store.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
But that's why it tastes so good.
Right. You're not
because
having
it every day.
Yeah.
And that's also
when I have it though.
It's bomb.
Because like I don't do a lot of sugar, but when the In-N-Out thing's fine. It doesn't set me off.
Yeah.
But as soon as I take that donut, I'm going for the ice cream. Everything that sugar is, I am consuming it until
Open
I
the
can't.
floodgates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it hits, but once I satisfy that thing, it's like the next day I'm like, dude, what were you? What happened?
You feel,
bro.
Yes.
the joints in my fingers.
Mine too.
They hurt.
It takes 30 minutes on the treadmill. I mean, not on the treadmill, on the stair mill, the Stairmaster.
Yeah.
Why do we?
Stairmill?
What is it called?
Stairmaster.
No, that was actually.
Oh no, you're right. No, it's not.
It's really a stair tread.
It's like the rolling stairs, you know.
Yes.
A Stairmaster is this one.
Remember the Stairmaster? Yeah. It was like literally they advertised it for the booty.
Yeah.
And you didn't even actually go upstairs.
I swear my mom got one off of like QVC.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk to you forever. I do have a couple other questions.
Yeah, I have some supplementary questions too.
There's one thing that I wanted to just and then let's do those questions, because the one thing about your eye gate, your ear gates, your whatever, and what you're putting in, and I joke that when I was talking about Motley Crue, there's some songs I won't listen to. Like they just don't settle well with me.
Sure.
And it's not just them. There's all kinds of, because I'm trying to be really mindful of what I feed my body. But you guys remember this? You might have heard tell of this study that was published pretty long time ago now, where they had a thing of water. And they played like acid rock and, heavy, just angry, yelling, screaming, music, they call it. And then they froze the water. And then they looked at the crystalline structure of the water. And it was like gnarled and under the microscope, like just angry looking crystals.
What?
They took a same size, same kind of water. They played classical, Andrea Bocelli.
Yeah.
They played all kinds of beautiful music while it was freezing. The crystals were perfect. They were beautiful, refractory, gorgeous crystals. And so if that doesn't tell you that what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we feel, whatever it is, what we allow into our bodies, that's real. Like there is something to be said. Now, to your point, Chad, if you want to watch a series with shoot 'em up or like not with guns, I'm talking
yeah.
and get the adrenaline pumping again or whatever, so be it. But if overall we watch out and we really manage what we get into our systems on all levels, it's going to make, if it did that with the water that was freezing, it's going to, change the way our cells vibrate, change the way we even look at life, our optimism, our pessimism, whatever. There's so much science behind that.
Totally.
Like, why wouldn't you default to
that's a
the good
direct
stuff?
correlation into everything that we say, where it is scary for us to live in this social media kind of era, because you see it with the youth struggling really hard, is because they're falling to the trap of this non-reality kind of world that they're just consumed by their phone, and they're addicted to it.
Yeah.
And I get why. It's a dopamine.
That's exactly right.
had to, and they Instagram, and I don't know about TikTok because I'm not a TikTok person. I don't scroll through TikTok, but Instagram, I scroll through reels sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed recently they did do an algorithm update. They did a change to their thing because what was scrolling through mine was different than what had been scrolling through mine. And what I do is I scroll until I find what I want, and then I heart it.
Yes.
And as you start to heart more of the similar stuff, then that's what ends up being in your feed. And I don't want any junk on mine. I don't want, because like if you're a man, there's a lot of half naked women that pop up a lot. So if you start hearting those, that's what's going to pop up more and more and more. But I want to hear positive motivation. I love like Inky Johnson and Eric the hip hop, just all of any motivational speaker.
Yeah.
I love their stuff.
Yeah.
And that's because that's what I want to feed my mind with.
Yeah.
I want to feed my mind with positive, motivating things that are going to help me to achieve my goals when I wake up each day to be successful.
Right. Absolutely. And that is real. Like I said,
It's
there's science behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
The water thing is crazy to me.
No,
It's wild.
I love
Imagine
that
what
example.
it's doing to your brain. Just making it, if you're already an anxiety driven person,
Yep.
well, watch what you're really,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember.
Is that good, Lewis?
He's like, yeah, that's really good. I remember my ex, we would go on a road trip and he loved heavy metal. And I mean, I love music. My mom's a country music singer. I love music. But it just, after a while, I was so anxious and I could feel it bubbling up inside of me. And not that I'm saying, oh, I'm so much better than that, but that kind of music just made my whole soul feel like it was flat. And then the anxiety started to rise. So, I mean, practice, try it. For those listeners.
So
yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, I can't.
Shane come pulling into some country music this morning. He had his window down. I don't know if he rolled it down because he saw me.
No, I was driving like that on the highway.
You were?
Yeah, the whole way.
And he was singing country music as he pulled in.
I love it.
What were you listening
country
to?
music is beautiful. I love country.
Yeah.
Zach,
Yeah,
who's the guy I listen to?
Zach Bryan.
Zach Bryan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
It's
good.
pretty good.
Really good.
Yeah. And there's like people always think, oh, your dog ran away, your wife left you, you're this, you're that.
That's old country.
That's old country. And even old country had some peppy stuff.
Yeah.
Like
You got to know
find it.
when to hold them.
Exactly.
Know when to fold them.
Yep.
How's
there you
that?
go.
Good?
Really good.
It's a good rendition. In fact, I closed my eyes and there was Kenny.
Yeah.
I saw him.
You thought Kenny was here, huh?
But it's, this kind of stuff, there's ways that we can do things that you don't even have to think about. It's not hard to do. But getting back to what you said, Shane, it's like there is this thing of this village, like getting the right people. You guys are part of folks' villages that are trying to get well, that are trying to get into recovery and stay there.
Yeah.
What you're doing in your facilities is you've got that handout and you're willing to grab someone's hand and say, I'll walk this journey with you. It may only be a week or 2 weeks or whatever, but I'm here and we can talk, and to some people, that one person that gives them that look that says, hey, I'm here and I can help you, oftentimes that's it. That lights the fuse, that gets them going into their stratosphere.
For sure.
So we do need each other. There's no question.
Goodness,
Can't
definitely.
do it alone.
Can we really quick talk about TikTok and all of the health-related things that pop up that all of my friends and sometimes Shane post as absolute truth?
Like what?
Throw
an example.
I can't think of an example because it's been a while since Shane's thrown something up. His wife threw something up the other day, but the only thing I can think of, then Shane didn't do this, I did this. Microplastics, are they real?
Oh,
Yeah. So the answer is, as we know it today, they're real.
Why would we
they're
still
things.
be making bottles that produce plastic?
Why would we be putting pesticides in our food?
Seriously. It's so true.
Why
What are
would
we
you-
doing?
Why when you go to Europe, can
Yep.
you eat almost anything? And when you come to America, you can't. Sorry, America, but our food, the way we're doing food is not, it's
No,
not
it's bad.
right.
It's bad. I
not
agree
right.
110%.
Well, I mean, it's a big indicator when you go to just, we went to Australia and there's a certain cereal brand that is sold in Australia and in America, and tell me why like blue 40 and red 40 and stuff, it's not in the one in Australia.
You don't even have to go that far.
That's
you
ridiculous.
Go to Canada.
That's right.
Kellogg sells in Canada, and the cereal is absolutely not the same in Canada as it is here in America.
No, that's right. And they don't have ketchup chips down here. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, I know. You know, can I tell you, if you ever go to Canada and you come back to the L.A. area, can you bring me some Old Dutch ketchup chips?
Yes.
And
Yes.
some dill pickle chips. They have to be Old Dutch because that's the stuff.
Next time I come visit you guys, I will bring you some. Not that I'm advocating that kind of bad food, but once in a while.
What's in
the
the ketchup chips? Like, what makes them red?
Well, it's the ketchup flavoring, so it's probably horrible for you.
It doesn't matter. I'm good.
Red color.
If you have that stuff in moderation, it doesn't hurt you. Our bodies, we are made to be able to filter toxins.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. We absolutely are.
But if you put so much toxins in you, we can't filter it.
Right.
Well, and we're doing it to ourselves too, which is even more scary because
the problem is people don't know in America that they're doing this to themselves. They are being fed pesticides in all of their food.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we're thinking we're eating, you know, the healthier. We're choosing. And people are like, oh, do you really need organic?
Yeah, you do.
And sometimes the organics, they're not good either.
Yeah.
Oh, I know one. I just came up with one.
Okay.
TikTok is really pushing that Whole Foods is bad.
Like the
store.
Grocery store?
The store.
Yeah.
Bad for what reason?
A lot of their products are coming from China. They're not healthy. My wife just sent me a TikTok on
really?
it. Yeah.
So here's what I say to that. So I hold these grocery store tours where I'll take clients and they sign up and I'll walk them through the grocery store and I'll have them pick out a few things that they would normally purchase. So, you know, whatever, it's a thing of pasta and they pick up lentil pasta and they're like, okay, what do you think of this? So we flip it over and I teach them how to read the ingredients and what are sort of catchphrases, what are not phrases, but catchwords that are hidden sugars, you know, because they have like 15, 25, whatever it is, different words for sugar. So I'll teach people how to read. And it's not hard. It doesn't mean you have to have a biochemistry degree. Like I can kind of walk you through this. There's an app.
There's an app. You take your phone and you put it on the code.
How does that app work?
You put on the code and it tells you how much sugar, how much ingredients are reds, blacks, different categories.
It's getting me out of a job. Is what it's doing. AI.
But there is ways to go into the grocery store and shop properly.
Yeah. And it is so that is helpful for like the everyday person that just wants to you know check that out. So you're right. So that's something that I do. So Whole Foods or whatever, I mean, any other grocery store that's out there, they're going to get whatever they can coming into their store. And a lot of times it's going to be organic, you know, when it's things like Sprouts or Whole Foods or whatever. But you still have to be diligent. And you still have to look at the ingredients and not just blindly go in there and go, well, you know, this is a Whole Foods grocery store, so I'm just going to take everything off the shelf because they're taking care of me. Well, the answer to that is not necessarily. You know, they've got products in there. Yes, they're trying to be cleaner. Yes, they're trying to be organic and better, but it doesn't catch everything.
Up on their signs, right up on the walls, it's painted on the walls and stickered all over the place that they don't allow 136 ingredients or I guess ingredients that they think shouldn't be used.
Bad or banned.
Which takes me over to.
We're not knocking any facilities or any grocery stores. We don't.
No,
we shop there. We love these places. It's just we don't want a lawsuit.
I'm not.
Right.
I shop at Whole Foods.
No shade.
I shop at Whole Foods just.
No, but it's a good point. Like you can't just walk into Whole Foods thinking like I can get whatever I want because I'm in Whole Foods. No, you're an idiot. You're walking into Whole Foods and it's a lot better than going into a candy store. But you still have to pay attention to whatever it is that you're picking up.
Right. That's right.
Seed oils.
Oh, that's one of my favorite topics. I've been doing a lot of studying on the seed
Awesome.
oils.
Yes.
AI be damned. I've been doing stuff. And I got to tell you, the seed oils like canola, soybean, sunflower, yeah, those seed oils. The thing about them, they produce these things called PUFAs. PUFAs. They're polyunsaturated fatty acids and different things. And saturated fatty acids aren't so good either, and blah blah blah. But that's the kind of stuff, when you put enough of those, whether it's, your French fries or your, whatever, you're deep frying a turkey and you're using canola oil thinking, well, look, I can see through it. I mean, it's a good quality.
Right.
No, the problem is it's not with the seed per se, it's how it's processed, and how it's processed then leads to inflammatory responses in the body. And again, those really sort of poor fats for optimal functioning of the body. So it's promoting more of that. And then that inflammatory response leads to a whole cascade of just really bad health, poor health. Whereas if you do things like coconut oil, even though sometimes some people have said, coconut oil, I really like it. I think that there's more good to coconut oil than bad. High quality olive oils.
What about avocado?
Avocado oil too, but the one thing is the fat,
heat, huh?
the heat. Yeah, you got to watch the heat. You're absolutely right. But even the fat content in it, avocados are amazing fat sources, but too much of a good thing is still too much. So you speak to a good point. It's a good fat, like for salad dressings or something like that. But the high heat can be a little bit, and then that can destroy the molecules, which can then lead to inflammatory responses too. So
What's the
again,
best
What
one to
do, what do I
with?
cook my eggs in? What is that stuff called?
Ghee.
Ghee.
oh, ghee.
Ghee.
Yeah.
Ghee.
Yep. That's,
But does ghee also have a heat level?
they all do. They all have a certain level of heat where they are optimized, and then over that, of course, it's it's
Can
not
cause-
Still good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I can
ghee is-
tell you that you cannot cook a perfect taco, though, shell,
Okay.
without using vegetable oil.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there again, it's your donut, right? It's your choosing it once a quarter or something like
Twice
that.
a year is
Twice
when I
a
make
year.
tacos, maybe.
Yeah.
Twice a year.
Yeah. Well, we did, with those air fryers and different things,
Yeah.
And not only that, it's not the air fryer. It was something else. And my brother was making French fries at the lake.
Oh, yeah,
we were having a big
Was it the
supper.
Ninja?
That's exactly what it was. And he requested canola oil, and I was like, oh, I don't even want to buy it from the shelf, But it was like, we have these French fries once a summer, or whatever. Okay, I'm not going to be militant, but if you can, that sort of once in a while is not a bad thing. Because to your point, our bodies are used to being detoxing agents. We're not used to being insulted by everything like the microplastics or the phytoestrogens or mold or whatever else that we're being insulted with. I've been working with executives that have lived in homes that are full of mold. Well, then they are taxed with this merger or this acquisition. They can't even think. They've got so much brain fog and so much sickness from these environmental toxins as well. We haven't even talked about that. That could be a whole other episode just on how that affects our brains, So there's a lot. Our bodies, if we are in a healthy environment, we will detox like till the cows come home. But if we're already insulted, we're a step down from where we could be optimally. And that's where supplements, changing the diet, in some cases, short-term pharmaceuticals, in some cases, always meant to titrate off, right? But all of that stuff is important over time too. But we got to be able to get our bodies into a healthiest environment that we can.
Yeah.
And that means getting out of mold, getting out of EMFs, getting out of...
How do you know if you are living in mold? If somebody is?
A couple... there are some really good tests that you can do, like that folks will come in and test your home, but it's expensive for the really good solid ones that are looking at the black mold and the this and the that. They can test for it, but for you and yourself, you're right, in your body itself, to be able to tell whether or not you have mold, there are very expensive biological tests that you can do. Typically, we don't have them in the U.S. They've got to be sent out to other countries, like typically Germany, etc. And they will look at titers of different molds that are in your blood.
Oh, wow.
So they can, as long as it's in your blood and not in your joints or your tissue or whatever.
I didn't even know mold could get into your joints and tissue.
Yep, it can. And it can, the spores in our lungs can actually even just go in and stick. And so, you may feel like you're, you can't think, you're brain fogged, you're not focusing, you're not healing from things the way you did before, so there's all these things. It's not a death wish. I mean, or a death sentence, I should say. You can come back from it, but to your point, Shane, I mean, it's hard to come back from it. But once you identify it, then you can start to go through the treatment process and you can remedy, but it's a long road.
Are there ever people that think they have all of these things?
Oh, the hypochondriac.
Think that they're living in mold, and it's no.
Then they develop all these symptoms of.
Yeah.
It can be more than molds. It can be that some of the things that I hear is what's the Lyme disease? And they've never been bit by a tick.
So there's a lot, like we developed when I was in biotech, we developed an assay that tested organisms of Lyme disease. And, there's a lot of doctors that'll say, it's not really real. Well, those organisms are real. And how they affect people. Like, you guys remember the singer, Canadian, Avril Lavigne?
Yeah.
And I think even Shania Twain, too, has been struggling with Lyme disease. So there's been a lot of people, and it manifests differently. For Shania, it was her voice. Yeah. And Avril, it was just like massive lethargy, and she had no energy whatsoever. Like, barely could get out of bed kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, and the being bit by a tick, here's the curious thing about that, is a lot of people are so used to seeing that target, that bullseye from where the tick bit. Well, sometimes you may miss that bullseye. And so you don't really even know. Like, the tick itself, obviously it can get big like a grape, not to be gross, but for the most part, once it's latched on, it's on. But let's say it bites you and somehow it gets brushed off. So it doesn't fully attach and it gets brushed off, and you don't even know, and you don't realize that you've been bit. Years go by. That particular bacterium that was inserted in the saliva of that tick into your blood, and then it might fit in your ankle joint, your knee joint, your whatever, your ankle, your wrist, your whatever's. You have no idea. And then a trigger happens, a stressor, a sickness, whatever. It releases that because they're kind of covered in this mucus. Mm-hmm. And so they're hidden. So even if you get a bout of antibiotics, kind of like the receptor thing I was telling you guys about and how it bounces off, that bacterium is under this sort of slick coating, and nothing can penetrate it. But if something does, like there's a soap agent that can penetrate it, out pops the bacteria. All of a sudden now someone's got a full-blown Lyme disease response. And they're like, I haven't even been out of the city. I don't know what you're talking about. I was never bit, but I grew up in the country. Well, it hid for decades, and something triggered it out. It popped, did its thing, and then if you can get a bout of antibiotics or whatever it is that you can get, you can kill a lot of it, but then it hides again. It is the most frustrating bacterium because it hides and you can't get to it. And then you're like, okay, great. Now I got to find a way to poke holes in that little mucus layer so that you can get to the bacteria. And it does so many awful things to the body. Like I said, just with those two people alone, look at their careers. Yeah. I mean, Shania has a voice of an angel, but she couldn't sing. But look at the stress she went through, and that could have, I'm not saying it is, I'm not her doctor, but I
bet you that's what popped out of her husband cheating on him with her best friend.
Yeah. I mean, that's a stress.
Traumatic.
Yeah. So who knows? It could have been. And with Avril, I mean, I don't know what a stressor could have been. Maybe it was the stress of touring. Who knows? Wow. And out it pops. So a lot of doctors will fight this, and they'll be like, no.
I did not know that about. that it could be basically dormant like
Yes.
that, and then all of a sudden you can have some type of stressful event happen, and then it will
It'll
ignite.
find itself. Yeah, it'll show itself. A friend of mine had it so bad he couldn't even recall words. Like he was having such a hard time he was very eloquent with the way he would word things. He was a marketing guy. And he said one day he was like trying to think of, a medium-sized word. He could not think of what it was. And he said it just kept on, his vocabulary drop.
But they can tell that it's Lyme disease from a blood test, or how does that?
Sometimes. That's where it gets scary. Like the assay that we developed, we were able to look at the actual organisms themselves, and we were able to it's funny, one of the things we used was called pokeweed, and it pokes at the organisms in the dish, and it makes a whole bunch of reactions. And so we know that that's a live organism, and it's this. We're able to kind of qualify what it is. But yeah, it's hard sometimes. Wow. The symptoms are similar to a bunch of other disorders and diseases. So a lot of times you can't parse out what you're dealing with until you go really deep into, not impossible, but deep into testing. So
that's horrifying.
Yeah. Queen of doom and gloom. Sorry. I always tell people I'm like one of the most optimistic people you can ever meet. And then everything I talk about is like, whoosh, it's so flat and yeah.
Science.
Science.
Yeah.
So tell us one kind of last thing. What exactly do you do today in your career? What is your, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. I'm having a Lyme disease moment.
There's help for that. I can help you. Yeah.
I probably should. But yeah, like what you do on a kind of
day-to-day?
Day-to-day.
Yeah.
Well, with Millennium, so I am, like I said, I'm their director of clinical affairs. So I do a lot of, with a team of very smart people. Like I'm sometimes sitting there going, okay, I didn't know that. Wow, this is amazing. So always surround yourself with people smarter than you, right? So we do a lot of research. So I do that, but I travel all the time with educational events, doing lectures at conferences, that sort of thing, talking about drug trends like what we talked about today. I try to sneak in a little bit on brain-gut connections and functional and restorative medicine, even though that's not really my day job, but it's part and parcel of what we're talking about. So I'm out probably 3 or 4 times a week, a lot of times touring and lecturing, and we go to high schools, we go to medical conferences all over the place. And then, of course, I'm one of the toxicologists as well, so I help doctors interpret the results that we give from our testing. We do definitive testing, so I'll get on the phone with a doctor and help them walk through, or a clinician of some sort, walk through what the interpretation is. So really cool day job stuff that I really enjoy. But then my Dr. Kelly stuff that's where I get to consult and work with executives and try to figure out how I can help them get to an optimal living level, so that when they are going through, or athletes like yourself, I'm not a strength trainer. I'm not that, but I'm an optimizer of like folks' lifestyles.
Coach.
It's kind of like that, yeah, where I help folks that are under so much stress, because I'm one of them. I'm not the high-level athlete, but I'm an executive that travels the country, and I know what it's like to struggle with, not eating well, and time zones, planes, and stress. Exactly.
Airports, rental cars.
Yeah.
Hotels.
That's right. All of it. So I do that, and I do corporate wellness. So I do the consulting, corporate wellness, and then I sometimes will help clinicians to integrate functional practices in their more traditional clinics. They may not know about Lyme disease testing, or they may not know about how we can look at a little more effectively allergic responses, and nothing's a perfect science, but if they've never heard of it, and maybe they have a day of nutrition, in med school, well, doggone it, that's not enough, so I can help implement that too. So I don't really have a ton of clients, like paid clients. I do a lot of this for like pro bono stuff, because I'm just so passionate about health. But I'd love to be able to work with more people that, I could almost be on retainer kind of thing. Because I've studied my butt off getting all this information, and I'd love to be able to share it with people.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm actually with you guys, you know, on this incredible podcast, being able to share this is an honor, because this is something that we all need to hear.
Yeah.
And we all need to start implementing, whether we're struggling with
Sure.
an addiction or not, you know? So yeah, that was a long, winded
You're a jack of all
answer.
trades. Like
That's a really good answer.
yeah. Wait, I have one question before we end.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or maybe it's twofold.
Okay.
What can somebody do to lower their cortisol?
Okay.
And what supplements do you recommend somebody take? Or what are your top
generally.
maybe
20.
no.
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 5, 4.
3.
No, yeah, like if somebody's listening,
1, go.
what would you, for somebody that I guess is not a normal supplement person and doesn't know where to start, would it be a generic multivitamin? Or
No.
would you have like
Sorry.
I'm asking the
That's my
question.
thing. I say
I'm
nitric
asking the
oxide.
question.
I say nitric oxide.
Or do you have like
Resveratrol.
3 specifics?
Yeah. So if I were to, and this is what I've always recommended, my mentor, she's a psychiatrist and out in Baltimore. And she said she's got basically her top 3
Okay.
to get people to a place where they're level, and then we can
Sure.
increase like the immune support and different things. And by the way, even me saying immune support, there'll be some people who'll be like, she just said a swear word, you know, that's not real. And I think to myself, you know what? All of the stuff that we talked about today is all immune
For
support.
sure.
We're giving our bodies a chance.
Yeah.
So let's call
I'm trying
it
to
what
build
it
my
is.
armor.
Right, exactly. So my top 3 that I always recommend to people, and I don't care what it is you're doing, what it is that you're trying to achieve,
Sure.
but to get to a certain level, is an pharmaceutical grade B vitamin, like a complex. So you want that. A fish oil. And if you're, again, pharmaceutical grade, Nordic Naturals is really good. I don't represent them, but that's what I use. I take in for my body. A good fish oil. If you're allergic to fish oil or fish itself, there's things called algae oil pills, or algae, you know, basically DHEA, EPA. That's really good. Why? Because our cells are made of fat. So essentially, if you don't have that fish oil or a good fat in your system, your cells start to kind of pull apart, and then all of the stuff that's in the cell starts to leak out into our bodies, and that's not good. So that fish oil really helps with that. It helps clear thinking, etc. And then, so those are the top 2. And then the third thing that I would recommend supplement-wise, I'm trying to think of which one I would pick. The B vitamin complex, the fish oil, and probably vitamin D3.
Okay.
Even though, and I kind of struggle with that because you guys see a lot of sunshine. I mean, June gloom or whatever it is
Sure.
that you have too. That vitamin D3 is so incredibly effective for immune support, cognitive function, you name it. Those would likely be my top 3 for everybody. Across,
sense.
and you can test for all of that. So you can test your levels. You don't have to just blindly go into it.
Right.
But for the most part, we all pretty much need those 3 things.
I think D3 was one of the biggest ones that the most people were I'm missing the word, lacking, and that got COVID.
Oh yeah, that was
were deficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big
So
deal.
I got COVID. I had the original COVID when it first came out, and that's where I decided I was already vaccinated.
Yeah.
Anyways, the other thing that comes up since we're on the supplement things, it was told, to a lot of people that what is it? Folic acid is bad for most people. Is that true?
For most people, yes. I would say so. Again, I
So you would
because
want
of
to take
biology,
like a methylfolate.
Methylated anything is better because it's already sort of walking you down that path of metabolism. And not only that, but it's also really good for, especially methylfolate, for helping to make brain chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, whatever. Like all of that stuff is part and parcel of things like the, having methylfolate in the system. But upstream from that, you're also looking at things like methylated pathways, working with selenium, homocysteine, all of those things that are also really important for immune function. So methylfolate is actually one of those kind of magic wand things, but the folic acid, the reason why that one's been such a, I'm not going to say villain, but it's not been something really helpful, is because it's been fortified in cereals and different things. I'm hoping in a benevolent way, that the government, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but was trying to do good things for the citizens. Was it Ronald Reagan said, if the government comes knocking and wants to help you, run, whatever.
Run.
Run.
Yeah.
But they were trying to fortify because, again, especially in pregnant women, having that folate was really an important piece to their health. But the folic acid, the problem is, if you think of a dam, you think of all this water on this side and sort of nothing here. There's a sort of a genetic process that takes the folate and makes it into something downstream. So that's where you get the actual folate on the other side. So folic acid here, folate over here. This is more bioavailable and really good for the body. This folic acid, if it gets stuck at that dam in the body, and so many of us are not able to metabolize it, turn it into something good, it builds up as a toxic substance. So that's where folic acid, one of the places, is getting that bad rap because it's building up and not being metabolized appropriately. And that can be a toxin in our bodies. So it's not a good thing. So you skip the dam when you do methylfolate. So it's pretty cool. Now, cortisol, you asked about that and about decreasing it. Good stress management, really good sleep, and again, those are other topics that, are each could be a podcast because there's so much to that. But decreasing or managing stress, really good. Meditating is a really good way to kind of calm that down. Box breathing or just, breathing, appropriately, Wim Hof or whatever, there's all that. But don't be driving, because I did that to one of his podcasts, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. I was all lightheaded. And I thought, what am I doing? I got to pull over, So there's that, and getting proper sleep, as I mentioned, that will all help to decrease cortisol. And there's some supplements too, like if you just cannot get it down or get the cortisol up when you need to wake up in the morning, there are things like adaptogens that can really help with that too. They're very, very powerful at helping with cortisol. So, lots of cool stuff.
Well, thank you so much for
I could talk
an amazing podcast.
Yeah.
It was incredibly informative and fun.
I'm glad to be here, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
my
you.
fellow
Appreciate
Canadian.
I know.
Thank you.
And also sexy.
my female athlete of the year. Like, you are incredible. I've been looking you up and checking out your stuff, and I'm so impressed. So
thank you. Thank you.
Being here and having me on your podcast.
Oh my goodness. I could talk about this stuff all day because it's not only is it fascinating, but I look at everything to perform at like the most optimal that I possibly can. And I never realized, obviously you learn things as you get older.
Right.
So I wish I knew a lot of stuff that I know now when I was early on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but now you know, right?
Yeah.
So today's the day, or last year's the day, or whatever.
Exactly.
You're right.
So we appreciate you big time.
Thanks, you guys. I'll come back anytime.
Yes.
Too, if you ever want it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.